Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to be looking again at the market cycle ROI, and this one we're actually just going to be doing it on TradingView so you guys can follow along, and we're just going to show how really the prices are going to the area in which I feel like makes a lot of sense, as we've been discussing on the channel for a while, that hey, we were ahead of schedule, that Bitcoin was ahead of schedule, but that doesn't mean we can't get back on track and ultimately make it to six figures. It just means that we are consolidating for a while. And this is not a bad thing, okay? It's not a bad thing. Going down for a few months, being in a brief bear market, it's not a bad thing. And I've said all along that this is required to see a push to $100,000. So while some people might be upset about the idea of things being bearish, it generally does represent opportunity. Okay, it represents opportunity. In the last video we were making it, I said, you know, it wouldn't be that surprising for us to go back above 30K. Here we are, right? Here we are. Not that crazy. There's just natural volatility everywhere. So let us go ahead and overlay our market cycle ROI, and then we can see where we are. Okay, we can see exactly where we are in the cycle, show how we were ahead of schedule, but that in fact we are getting back on track. If anything, we're getting back on track. Okay, these are our three market cycles, as you can see, and we're just going to sort of overlay them from the cycle bottom. Okay, from the cycle bottom, and we'll make this one like a different color. So here they are. Here the three different cycles are, and what we have predicted for months now is this was ahead of schedule. And now at the time, it was easy to write it off as, as well, we're just going to track the last cycle. But we were persistent in the idea that we probably would not keep pace with the prior cycle. So here we are. We have finally come into the region that we said, hey, this is probably going to happen. There's a very high probability that we ultimately do not keep pace with the prior cycle. That doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that we cannot continue higher to six figures eventually, but it doesn't have to go there as quickly as the last cycle would have you believe if you think that we have to track the last cycle precisely. Okay, so you can see now that we are finally coming out the other side. Now, a few weeks ago when we dropped down in this area, I said, well, we can't necessarily claim that we are going to stay below it at this point, because we are still at a point where in a few weeks, the prior cycle had a pretty big capitulation. And as long as we're, at $32,000 by mid-June, then we're still theoretically on track with the last cycle. But after that point, we need to start moving up relatively quickly. Okay, so the price of Bitcoin would need to move up relatively quickly for us to keep pace with the last cycle. If you're curious, well, how quickly exactly would the price of Bitcoin need to move up to keep pace with the last cycle? Well, you can see that it would need to be about $80,000 in about a month. Okay, so if Bitcoin is trading at $80,000 within 1 month, then we are in fact still keeping pace with the last cycle. If, on the other hand, we're not trading at $80,000 within the next month or so, then we are simply just not keeping pace with it. You can see that if it could go up to 80K, and then by say mid-August, it could drop back down to 50K and still theoretically be on track with the last cycle. And so we want to keep a close eye on this. We've put the theory forward many times that it will not keep pace with it. Therefore, we are certainly going to do it justice to show if it does or not. Because if it does, well, then this would be somewhat remarkable if Bitcoin can go and put in a new all-time high within the next month. I just don't think it's going to happen. But at the same time, we're not going to hide behind anything. If it does happen, we'll say, well, it's keeping pace so far, which, again, so far this cycle, if anything, it was ahead of schedule. And by coming down into this region over here, we're just being where we probably should have been. I mean, it just makes sense for us to be in that region with the idea of diminishing returns and lengthening cycles. So we just wanted to do a quick update here, show you where we are, Okay, where are we right now? You can see we are coming out the other side over here, and we have not had a move to 80K yet. If in fact we were to have a move to 80K, which is what we would need to do to maintain the pace of the last cycle here, it would imply us potentially going up to $43,000 by the end of the week. So Bitcoin, we need to go up another $10,000 by the end of the week, maybe $50,000 by the end of the next week, 60 something thousand dollars, $70,000 by the end of the next week. So if it does something like that, then we are certainly making an attempt to keep pace with the prior cycle. It's just not something I would take to the bank, because I think it's very unlikely to happen. So again, my thinking here is probably going to spend some time in this region over here. We said 3 to 6 months of consolidation. Probably not something that's going to immediately turn around and put in new all-time highs, but that's not a bad thing. And if anything, it gives people time, more time to accumulate in order to hopefully gear up for whatever the next move by Bitcoin is whenever this consolidation period ends. Whenever the bearish times are over, we can get back above the 20-week SMA, hold it as support, and then start trending higher. Hopefully a period where there's a downtime in the market will allow people to get the positions, especially people that maybe thought they were late to the party. Regardless, I think Bitcoin has some work to do to grind out, and ultimately speaking, we will come out the other side. But it's going to take time and a decent amount of time, not just like a week or two for us to put in new all-time highs, but probably several, many months. Okay, many months. Before we have a realistic chance of putting in new all-time highs. Right now, we're trading at about $32,000. So obviously, things are a little bit bearish right now, considering that we were trading at like 40K a week ago. Maybe some people are bullish right now, considering it just went to $29,000. We were at 40K, 41K or so about just over a week ago. So the general market is somewhat bearish. And remember, these things take time to turn around. Momentum takes time to shift, and ultimately I think we will see that shift, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. Okay, it doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. And that I think for me personally, I will be a lot more optimistic about Bitcoin going to 100K once we are in this region over here, and not having this crazy breakout in the short term, because I feel like these insane breakouts that people are hoping for, I don't know how sustainable that's going to be. So the last, if you go back and look at the last several weeks, one of the things we discussed over the last several, when we came down here and went below the 20-week SMA, was that, okay, well, we're probably not going to have a V-shaped recovery, and we need about 3 to 6 months of consolidation time, where we sort of grind out at lower prices, and we're not immediately putting in new all-time highs. So, we've currently got about 1 month down. So we came down here in the middle of May. Now we're at the end of June. Probably need, June, July, August at the very least before we can hope to really get churning back the other way. But again, I think it could probably take 3 to 6 months. So 1 month down, we'll see how much longer it takes. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. If you want to know how I'm navigating these markets, remember to check out the premium list. You can find a link to that in the description below as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell icon to turn on your notifications, and I will see you next time. Bye.